Just how different is the 2025 Arizona Cardinals defense compared to years prior? We got Damon Dawg on the show today. What up, Damon?
What's going on, Johnny? We're going to talk a little bit of Steve Keim. What are the best teams that he could put together? All-star team of busts. That and more right now. PHNX Cardinals.
Hey, welcome in. Live from Studio K, presented by our friends at Circle K. It's the PHNX Cardinals podcast, your premier #1 Arizona Cardinal podcast. Like and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star wherever you get your programming. I'm Johnny Venerable. That's Damon Dawg, host of the PHNX U of A Wildcat show. Fired up to have him on the program today. Bo is out. Damon is in. Noah is in. Producer Noah. We got a fun little squad here on a Football Friday. What's up, fellas?
We do have a fun little squad here. People are calling this might be like Suicide Squad here. It's just a group of ragtag crew just slumming it up here on a Football Friday with all of our best friends in the chat.
That's right. I love some of these comments already. Damon on a Friday, what a treat. Same Brian. Whoa, Damon, CBK. Yeah, we had Damon pinch hit, and Noah stepping up here as well. So we're enjoying our Football Friday. We got a banner show to talk about. Everybody, welcome into the show. Drop a like, drop a comment. It's your #1 premier Arizona Cardinal podcast, and it's been a poetic theme all week long. We had a chance to visit with Walter Nolen, Will Johnson last weekend, right? We've had that conversation continue into this week with the, I would say, removal from the roster for Sean Murphy-Bunting, for lack of a better term, placed on the NFI list yesterday with an off-season injury. It's going to knock him out for 2025. You would assume, like we speculated on the show yesterday, that Sean Murphy-Bunting has likely played his last snap for the Redbirds. And so you think about how much change, Damon, this defense has gone through even since last year. You think about, okay, this is the 15th, 13th ranked defense in points per game, and it has almost been gutted to the core. And, with all due respect to the guys that they've lost, and we'll talk about it, we'll compare. I mean, we generally feel like for the better, the Cardinals have upgraded in all three levels of their defense.
Yeah, certainly. I think, you look at a group like the DB room, right? And there's a little bit more continuity there, but I think that the depth pieces got better. You get Will Johnson in place of Sean Murphy-Bunting, and that's presumably an upgrade. And then, I think the linebacker core, as things currently are constituted, and I'm talking about the off-ball guys, are I would say it's somewhat of a wash, in my opinion. You might get a little bit better with Davis Gaithers or Cody Simon in place, but Kazir White was an average linebacker in the NFL. And I expect that group to be much of the same, I think, this season. But that defensive line room, man, is just like, I don't know that, and I've said this before on the show, but I don't think that there's a position group in the entire league that is seeing a facelift quite like the Cardinals edge rusher and D tackle group did this offseason.
It's dramatically improved. It had to be, because there's no singular move that Ossenfort or Gannon, anybody could have made and sold to us that it was going to change the dynamic of this defensive line. Even, and we talked about it, we saw him at the Super Bowl. I yelled and harassed him. Myles Garrett, even adding Myles Garrett to this unit, it still had deficiencies, right? It still needed more. And give Ossenfort credit. It does feel like he has found the right puzzle pieces to put together: age, experience, veteran, rookie, cap space, where to allocate. And again, if you were part of this unit last year, and especially the last 2 years, I mean, you've had opportunities. It has not been good enough. I mean, the two biggest factors why this season kind of fell apart for the club last year, it's 6-4, finishing 2-5. They could not throw the ball vertically, and they could not pressure opposing offenses. Their line of scrimmage play on their defensive line was just not good enough. They think that offensively they're going to get better through continuity and consistency. Defensively, though, it was not a coaching problem. It was a personnel problem that they have seemingly created and revamped from scratch here. So here's what we're going to do on a Football Friday. Damon has put together several graphics depicting the dramatic shift for this franchise. We're going to break it down, but I'm going to turn the clocks back almost 2 years, right? 2 years ago, we're doing this show. We're talking about a gut job. Players are getting sliced and diced off of this team. And then this is what we're left with. Let's take a look at the 2023 starting defense. 2023 for the Arizona Cardinals. Noah, if we could, let's see it now.
Close your eyes.
Close your eyes. Shield your eyes. There it is. So we're going to just break this down. Every graphic we're going to show is going to have 2 linebackers, 4 to 5 defensive linemen, 3 corners, and 2 safeties. Here's the defensive line for 2023 for our audio listeners. The pass rushers were Dennis Gardeck coming off an injury and Zaven Collins on the opposite side as a converted outside linebacker. This is what Jonathan Gannon and Nick Riles went to back with. Kevin Strong, Lecky Fotu, and Jonathan Ledbetter, okay, were the starting defensive line. Of these players right now, only Zaven Collins remains. And newsflash for, everybody who's been living under a rock, he's not a projected starter right now for this team. That was the starting defensive line. Then you look at the next level of this defense, and I think it's probably the more respectable group. Kazir White, who is their marquee, really only free agent signing of note in the offseason of 2023. He was an exceptional signing. And then Josh Woods, who we had on this program that offseason, they thought could be what Mac Wilson ended up being. He was one and done. So there was your linebackers. And then the secondary was just all kinds of fresh hell, especially at cornerback. Antonio Hamilton, Marco Wilson were your outside corners. Keitrell Clark was in there as a rookie. Starling Thomas. I mean, there were games where Keitrell Clark and Starling Thomas, as 6th round and undrafted respectfully, were playing meaningful snaps for this team. And then again, it's the 2 stalwarts at safety, Baker and Jalen Thompson. They could only do so much. I mean, Damon, you look at this defense, you look where this franchise has come from. I mean, do you even remember breaking down this unit? Like, I've blocked it out to some extent.
Yeah, Johnny, your favorite term that you like to say is horror show. And I don't know if it's ever been more apt than in this exact moment, because what on earth is this? I was talking to Bo a little bit earlier today about this list in particular. And how about Keitrell Clark, 6th round, drafted rookie in the starting lineup back in 2023 for week 1. Like, and meanwhile, the Cardinals take Denzel Burke in a similar range. And yesterday, we put together a graphic of the cornerback room, and he's at the far bottom of the cornerback room and being a similar draft pick rather than being a starter. I feel like that's just very indicative of how the talent level that was on this defense at the time. And man, I mean, this defensive line, I don't know how you win a single football game with these as your defenders. And I guess the answer is Jonathan Gannon and Nick Riles.
We talked about it. I said it was the worst position group in the NFL, not for defensive line. I thought, like, you lump everybody in, and I don't remember like the landscape of the NFL in 2023, but like whomever had like the worst quarterback room, like that's what that defensive line was in contention with. But here's the thing is, like, what else were they going to do? We're going to talk about like Cameron Thomas and Myjai Sanders later in the show, but it was one of those things, Damon, where it was like, well, this is where we at. We're just going to coach them up. Let's see if any of these guys stick. And we're going to strip this cap down. We're going to get rid of guys. Isaiah Simmons had just been jet-setted out of town for a ham sandwich to the New York Giants like 3 weeks before the regular season. So that was, a shell shock to a lot of people not paying attention. It was really like Buddha, Jalen, Kazir White, save us with a little bit of Zaven and Dennis Gardeck, who did stick around beyond 2023. But that's like ripping the Band-Aid off. But I do think it's important to note, like, even though we're going to look at 2024, a unit here in 1 second that bode well last year. Nice showing. Outperformed the offense, which has stars aplenty. What we're going to show you right now, the 2024 defense, is dramatically different than who is in their building and who's going to start for them. Let's see it, Noah. The 2024 Arizona Cardinals defense, right? Still not a consistent unit. Look at the defensive line, as Damon has done an outstanding job putting this together for us. Dennis Gardeck, no longer with the team. Bilal Nichols, Justin Jones, the marquee D tackles. Neither will start if either is on the team. I think there's a good chance that one, if not both, will be released. Roy Lopez, who did a nice job, signed a free agent contract this offseason elsewhere. And then there's Zaven Collins again. So there's that defensive line. None of these players are going to be starters for the Cardinals. It is going to be a complete new group up front. And it should be. Because every time we got on the show last year, Ojulari was hurt. Darius Robinson was hurt. This is what they had. And to their credit, Ojulari and Darius Robinson were going to start. We're going to start for this team, and inevitably didn't. Bilal Nichols and Justin Jones flamed out with injuries. Roy Lopez, I would argue, and maybe Zaven Collins, was your most consistent player on the defensive line. So the defensive line itself, Damon, Dawg, that, like, some of these players are still hanging around. None of these guys are starting for this team in 2024.
No, I mean, obviously, everyone knows that, I got a special place in my heart for Roy Lopez, given that he was an Arizona Wildcat, but he is what he is, and that's a space eater and an average football player. But you're right, he was somewhat of the crown jewel of this group, which goes a long way into telling you exactly how good this group was. But yeah, I mean, none of these guys, Bilal Nichols and Justin Jones, are on the team, and we're going to pull up the 2025 graphic here in a second. Like, those guys wouldn't sniff the starting lineup in today's team. And yeah, I mean, obviously you see improvement in this 2024 defense from, the practice squad XFL team that was the 2023 defense, but still a long ways to go, especially on that defensive front.
Looking back, we got some notes here to where the team was previously. Kevin Strong, Lecky Fotu, Jonathan Ledbetter. Doesn't look like some of these players are not in the league anymore. Currently not signed. Kazir White, Josh Woods, currently not signed. Zaven Collins backup. Buda Baker still with the team. Antonio Hamilton, I don't think, is in the league. Marco Wilson's bounced around. Keitrell Clark's a fringe roster player, and then Jalen Thompson's in a rookie year of his deal. Let's take a look at that 2024 defense one more time. The secondary is probably the biggest area of improvement. I'll gloss over Kazir White, unsigned. He and Mack Wilson Sr. were very good last year. The Cardinals are going in a different direction with Kazir White. It was a very admirable group. Garrett Williams finally entrenched as a starter. Sean Murphy-Bunting was inconsistent. Now he's gone. Starling Thomas will be in the mix. I expect him to make this roster. And the safeties are the safeties. However, there's a nugget of, a footnote here is Taylor Demerson is coming for that unit and will play a lot. So the back seven is respectable and was a big reason, Damon, maybe the marquee reason why the defense overachieved. Garrett Williams is going to be a star. Buda Baker had a tremendous season. Jalen Thompson was fine when he was in there. He was injured most of the year. Mack Wilson Sr. probably should have made the Pro Bowl. Kazir White was steady. And then you have guys like Max Melton, who we're talking about in a second, that came into their own in roles, rotational roles, when Murphy-Bunting was out. So I think the back seven shows you we have some things to build on. We've made some investments. The front seven was still a disaster class in terms of guys not working out, players being injured, free agent busts, and so forth. So, I mean, the starting defense in 2024, I want everybody to take a mental screenshot of this, because I think even in a singular offseason for a team that was on the verge of making the playoffs, for a unit that was on the rise, there's going to be so many wholesale changes, you're not going to believe it. Yeah,
it really is special to look at when we're about to pull up this next graphic here, Johnny, that I put together, because the what we're about to witness this season as Cardinals fans is we're going from one of the most talent ridden groups to a team that has players that are not only just really good football players, but they're very highly thought of across the league circles as well. These are players that, were highly coveted by, lots of organizations. And Noah, why don't we go ahead and pull up that 2025 defense? I mean, you just look at that defensive line, Johnny.
Night and day different. It's not even everything. And you can make arguments for other players, mixing and matching here. Let's start with the defensive line. Josh Sweat signed a marquee contract this offseason with the Arizona Cardinals, upwards of almost $50 million in guarantees. He is a starter. Could have been the Super Bowl MVP last February for Philadelphia. He is in the fold. Darius Robinson's going to start for this team, looking like the Incredible Hulk at minicamp. Would have been a marquee player last year had he not gotten hurt. Of course, the tragic scenario, losing his mom. Dalvin Tomlinson takes over for Roy Lopez. That's an upgrade. One of the best pure nose tackles in the NFL, a consistent presence in years prior for Cleveland, the Giants, etc. Calais Campbell returns. And again, this is probably the area where you could pencil in another rotational player that we're going to get to. Calais Campbell comes in. Big 93's back in the fold. Somebody who was one of the best, if not the best, defensive lineman for the Miami Dolphins last year. Will this be his last year in the league? Still very productive. And then you've got probably the weak spot is Baron Browning right now. But Baron Browning, they're high on. They re-signed him before free agency. And here's what I'll say. If Baron Browning's your worst player on your defensive line, you're in good shape. Jordan Burch has a chance. B.J. Ojulari has a chance to push Browning for playing time. Let the best man win there. Have no issue with that. And then you also have to consider the 16th overall pick. How does Walter Nolen factor into this? Again, Gannon rotates his players. Nobody's going to play more than 50, 60% of the snaps. I think Walter Nolen in a perfect world eventually takes the baton from Calais Campbell, and your defensive line includes Darius and Walter Nolen in the starting lineup. But just starting there, Damon, your takeaways with the gut job for this defensive line.
Yeah, I indicated here on all of these graphics, and I'm sure we'll post them after the fact on our socials, but the yellow means that you are a new addition. So I feel like just taking in those new additions, Josh Sweat, Dalvin Tomlinson, Calais Campbell, Akeem Davis-Gaither, and Will Johnson. I mean, it's star-studded, man.
Yeah.
Like, and you like the players that you have. I mean, obviously the safety tandem is one of the best in football. Mack Wilson was so reliable last year, made big plays. Garrett Williams, probably the best slot corner in football. So it's not like, the other guys aren't exciting as well, but a big chunk of this talent, I feel like on this graphic is coming from guys that are being added to the team next year.
Yeah. To me, it's like the back seven is just continued refinement and tweaks for a unit that should dominate. Will Johnson taking over for Sean Murphy-Bunting. I think a lot of us, the only thing you're losing there is experience. Will Johnson, though, you cannot. I see people like saying Starling Thomas is going to start and he's going to have a chance to compete. You don't take a player like Will Johnson with the situation with his knee and sit him. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Max
100%.
Melton, Garrett Williams, complete rock stars. And then you've got Akeem Davis-Gaither, who we're going to give the benefit of the doubt, at least to open up camp. Cody Simon, does he force his way into the starting lineup? It wouldn't surprise any of us. I think if you're looking at like Walter Nolen, Cody Simon, they have a chance to break through. And then, I mean, if you're finishing the year and Walter Nolen, Cody Simon, and Will Johnson, if you get 3 starting players from your draft class, that's a really solid start. And then you mix in Jordan Burch, who figures to give you a handful of sacks. Taylor Demerson, eventually heir apparent to Jalen Thompson. I mean, you have a depth problem in the best possible way. It's first world problems. So what does this mean for guys like Bilal Nichols and Justin Jones? I think it means that one, if not both, are going to be released. And it has nothing to do with cap space. It has nothing to do. It's a numbers game. Justin Jones and Bilal Nichols are not better than what we're looking at on the screen. They're not better than Walter Nolen. They're not certainly more valuable. Then you mix in like, where does Dante Stills fit in? Well, where does LJ Collier, who was good last year? Zaven Collins, who's been a starter the last 2 graphics, he's no longer in this unit, right? Xavier Thomas last year flashed as a 5th-round rookie. You're going to end up having to make tough choices. And yeah, a lot of these guys keep on the roster, backups, rotational players. But like when the Cardinals are trying to compete for a playoff spot to win the NFC West, you're going to want Sweat, Robinson, Nolen, Tomlinson, Calais Campbell. You want those guys impacting the game for you. I want a kid that played at the highest level at Ohio State, impacting the game for me at inside linebacker with respect to Kiem Davis-Gaither. I need to see something from him as a rotational special teamer for the Bengals, who were atrocious defensively. I need to see him do something as a, 26, 27-year-old. And then Will Johnson, of course, you're going to go through growing pains just like Garrett Williams and Max Melton did. But the hope, Damon, is by the end of the year, these guys have settled into their roles. And here's what I will say. The schedule for the Arizona Cardinals allows this defense, to go through some growing pains. We've talked about it ad nauseum. Carolina, week 2. New Orleans, week 1, right? Iffy Brock Purdy in week 3. There are opportunities for this defense to, you don't have to be perfect, but let's get these guys acclimated before the dog days, the tougher stretch at the end of the year. When you're playing Seattle, when you're playing the LA Rams twice, right? When you're playing Tampa and Cincinnati, these high-profile offenses, rip the Band-Aid off early. Don't thrust those guys into the lineup late in the year when they're not ready and they need exposure. They need to play.
Yeah, I think, looking at that defense, Johnny, one of the things that pops out to me is look at the guys that are not on that starting lineup graphic and think about how those players would be the marquee players in the former years graphics. Like, could you imagine Jordan Birch on the 2023 team? We would have gone back on that graphic and been like, and there you have Jordan Birch, he's the star of the defense. He obviously wore the captain's C. And you're like, on this graphic, he might not even be the third or fourth pass rusher we'd put on here for the Arizona Cardinals. So I feel like, it just goes to show that not only is the upper echelon talent on this roster now, but the depth is there too. Like they went from having absolutely nobody to having third round picks as your backups at premium positions.
There are several wild cards for this defense. Damon just named one in Birch. I think B.J. Ojulari is a wild card if he's healthy, if he shows the explosiveness of last year. I think Elijah Jones is a wild card, high floor, third round pick out of Florida State last year. What can he show, right? I think Denzel Burke, who, I was looking back on my day 2 mock draft, go PHNX.com, trying to figure out what the Cardinals and other teams were going to do on that fateful Friday. I had Denzel Burke as a third round pick. I remember loving Denzel Burke during the draft process. Cardinals get him in the 5th round. So some of these guys are going to pop. Some of these guys are going to flash. I, for one, am fired up to watch the second and third units defensively for the Cardinals in the preseason, where in years prior, it was like, we would be watching the large majority of these games. And I'm like, these guys are going to be around. These guys are going to play on this team this year.
Yeah. Respectfully, it was, I'm trying to think of like the Joey Blunts of the world at safety where we're watching and being like, this guy's never going to play a meaningful defensive snap for this football team. And now you have legitimate, backup pieces in there. And another wild card, and I'll say it in a little bit of a different sense than the way that you were bringing up these wild cards, because I think that your version of it was like, these guys are unknowns and they could be very big time contributors for this team. I think that the guy that I'm thinking of is Rabbit Taylor Demerson. We know he's a good football player. We know he's going to contribute, but I think he's a wild card in the sense of just how good can Rabbit Taylor Demerson be? Because I feel like we don't know that ceiling yet. And there's a world where he's, a Pro Bowl type of safety. I feel like just from the flashes we've seen very, sparingly so far, he seems like a turnover machine. Like he's constantly making big plays. He played really well when he came in for Jalen Thompson last year. And I think he's a wild card just in the fact of like, could the Cardinals have 3 Pro Bowl caliber safeties on their roster?
I think we're going to fast forward to the end of this year, and he is going to be easily their best cover safety. I think Jalen will be better. He was hurt last year. We heard from people close to the situation. He was not healthy. I mean, he had 5 interceptions 2 years ago. And then Budda Baker is, no disrespect, he's more of a box safety now. He's a tackling machine. And he wants more picks. And I think he'll have an opportunity with this revamped front 7. Taylor Demerson, you're 100% right. Like, it's the eye test with him. I use the comparison. I remember watching a player named Darrell Washington for the Arizona Cardinals. It was a 2nd round pick out of TCU. The year they took Dan Williams, a tackle out of Tennessee in the first round. And I remember watching that preseason. I believe it was 20, I want to say like 2010, 2011, something like that, maybe 2012. And
Mhm.
Daryl Washington in a preseason game was running with the twos and made every tackle and was all over the place, tackle for loss. And that's the same feeling I get watching Taylor Demerson in the preseason last year. And
Yep.
had he not been a part of a loaded position group, he would have played a lot. And when he did play, he got his hands on the football. He had passes defended. I think he is going to be a playmaking safety with a potential to be a Pro Bowler. 100%. I don't think that about everybody that's middle to late. I don't know if Jordan Birch or Cody Simon, these guys, Owen Papo, if they'll ever become starters or consistent contributors. Rabbit Taylor Demerson is going to start and make a ton of plays for this team. And Ozzy, I agree with you. He's going to be a young star for this team. We're going to fast forward to the end of this year, barring injury, and people are going to be putting Rabbit Taylor Demerson on all like top 25, under 25, because of who his head coach is, who his defensive coordinator is, and is when you have those kind of instincts for the football, like you just can't teach that. Some guys look stiff, some guys don't look fluid. Isaiah Simmons, Taylor Demerson, to me, it's like, hey man, that kid looks like he's been playing football his entire life.
Yeah, and then you have Jonathan Gannon, of course, who's making guys like Reed Blankenship into, solid NFL starters.
Right.
We have a kingmaker at head coach with a talent like Rabbit Taylor Demerson. I think you just have to love that combo.
Yeah, absolutely. I love this combo. When you hit that like button, hook us up here. We got 230 watching live on a Football Friday. Big ups to Damon and Noah for hanging out today. We appreciate everybody. We got more around the corner. We're going to walk through the very best of the busts under Steve Keim, both free agent and draft alike, offense and defense. We talked about it. Get the barf bag ready. It's PHNX Cardinals. I'll tell you where you're not going to need a barf bag. Quite the opposite. You're going to need your best dress to hang out with our friends and all the goodies at Gila River Resorts and Casinos, specifically at Wild Horse Pass. All the bad vibes we're going to talk about here in a little bit with Steve Keim. The opposite reigns true with Gila. Catch them right now at Wild Horse Pass, our premier location to do things like watch parties, a staycation. They've got a tremendous rooftop bar. They've got the largest sportsbook casino in the greater Arizona area. I have been, shameless plug, to many five-star casinos, staying and otherwise attending in Vegas. Gila River Resorts and Casinos Wild Horse Pass is on par with any of them. You could pluck it right here from Phoenix, from the desert, and put it into the Las Vegas Strip, and it would be right at home. But the best part is you don't have to leave your phone. Go and check them out here in Arizona. Check them out at playatgila.com right now. You do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Check them out in the link description. We're going to be there doing some shows this summer. We're going to be doing more watch parties, hopefully there soon. Big thanks to them, and big thanks to our friends at All Pro Shades Concepts. Extend your outdoor living space with a custom fit awning, hundreds of designs and colors to choose from to match any home. They've got motorized, retract with a remote control, LED lighting to light up your patio with the awning. Right now, they've got roll-down patio shades. It is officially like summer heat in Arizona. We want to hook you up, All Pro Shades. It's brutal out there, right? Unless you got a pool to sit in and you want to hang on your patio, they can hook you up to make your patio up to 20 degrees cooler, not 20, with hundreds of colors and durable fabrics to choose from. They've got manual, they've got motorized, they've got sealed track or cable shades, drop downs, whatever you need. Check them out right now. The most trusted local company, voted #1 by Arizona for patio shades in 2024. They've got the BBB A+ rating with over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google. Again, in business for 20 years here in the Valley. Started making window shades for friends and family by hand in Phoenix. Now they're one of the largest installers of patio roll-down shades and motorized awnings in the Valley. Licensed, bonded, and insured. Call 623-204-1476 or visit allproshadesconcepts.com to schedule your free estimate today.
Kind of a similar company to PHNX Sports, Johnny.
Oh, man.
They came up. They were just doing it for the love of the game, and now the biggest digital media in all of the state of Arizona.
Special.
It is special.
Speaking of special, I did want to highlight this. It's a banger of a graphic that Damon put together yesterday. We posted it on Twitter, but it's worth repeating here. The Cardinals, this is the battery for the cornerback room. The defensive line has some experience. You've got Baron Browning, who's been around for a little bit. You've got, of course, Calais Campbell, Dalvin Tomlinson, Josh Sweat. The inexperience of the cornerback room. Damon, does it concern you? Because for me, it's like I would rather just have high-end athletes at those positions, and most of these guys have played at least 1 to 2 seasons already in the NFL.
No, I'd say it doesn't concern me in the fact that, corners, I think the best corners in football are typically the ones that are on rookie contracts. That's
Great
the name
point.
of the game when it comes to running backs, cornerbacks in particular. Offensive linemen are, I've mentioned this before, like studies show that like offensive linemen are much more successful after their first contract on their second contract, because when you think about it, like a big, 300-pound guy like that, like getting that kind of 30-year-old man strength is important, right? But with cornerbacks, I think you want them, as young and fresh as possible, and that's what this group is. And you maybe you lack some experience, but you certainly don't lack leadership from the likes of like a Garrett Williams, who's already a all-pro borderline caliber player in his his third season last year or second season.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I feel like maybe they're young, but I feel like that's the name of the game when you're trying to find cornerbacks.
Well, it's funny you say that because I agree with you 1,000%. Like the sweet spot is the best play from a corner typically is at the end of their rookie deal into their second deal, right? But then you start to look at, I'm going to read off the highest paid corners in the NFL.
Mhm.
Derek Stingley, okay, for the Texans, a good player. He's 26. Then it's J.C. Horn at 26. Then it's Jalen Ramsey at 31, a deal that the Dolphins are actively trying to get off of. Then it's Patrick Surtain, who's only somehow 25, which is wild. Then you've got Jair Alexander, Damon. The Packers are trying to get out of his deal. He's 28 years old. Denzel Ward's up there at 28. Browns want to move off of him. Trayvon Diggs for the Cowboys at 27. There's word that the Cowboys aren't happy with him. Marlon Humphrey with the Ravens is 29. Carlton Davis for the Patriots. I mean, like, you're right. The back half of your 20s is usually where things start to deteriorate. Whereas, like, if you're a pass rusher, a defensive tackle, and like offensive tackles, like you're getting second, third, sometimes fourth contracts. So we're going to hopefully see the best version of Garrett Williams, Max Melton, Will Johnson now. And that's why I think it's a little bit ridiculous when you talk about like Will Johnson's knee. And I just read you off all those players. So Will Johnson, by this graphic, and let me check one more time, I believe he's only 22 years old. So Will Johnson's 22 years old. So if you're telling me that his play is going to fall off around 27, 28, 29, well, then Will Johnson, I say only has to get to the second contract, only has to get about 5 to 7 years of NFL football under his belt, where I heard like people kind of talking out of their ass during draft season was like, I don't know if Will Johnson, his knee's going to hold up for 10 years in the NFL. What corner makes it to 32, 33 years old? This is not
100%.
quarterback. Like, that's why I think, like, regardless of how this plays out, the Cardinals are going to get the best version of him, regardless of whether or not his knee is healthy. Like, this is it. And that's why you have to play him now.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I always thought that was a little bit of a weird concern, considering like if you get, 4 really great years out of Will Johnson on his rookie contract, I think that's worth it. I think that's worth, the elite football player you might be getting. So yeah, I mean, I'm totally with you. What corners are playing a decade in football? I mean, you looked at that list right now, you read off that list. Jalen Ramsey's the one guy who is, an older player. And I think actually at this point, I think Jalen Ramsey is a little bit underrated among football fans, but
Probably.
like that's a generational corner. Like that's
Right.
it. That's the corner of the 2010s. So, or I should say 2020s. But it's like that you can't compare to that guy necessarily. Who else is even in the league still who's older? Stephon Gilmore, who I believe is unsigned right now, but still a decent player. Like most of the guys that are starters are all in that, 23 to 26 range, 27 range.
There are only, I'm just ballparking this, of the top roughly 20 highest paid corners in the NFL, only like 3 of them are over 30, roughly. Like Jalen Ramsey, Jordan Lewis, Kenny Moore. I mean, that's it. And Kenny Moore and Jordan Lewis are on the lower end for cornerback contracts. Like the guys who are making the most money are in their early to mid 20s, right? Like
Colts legend Kenny Moore.
Yeah, for sure. Get the banner out, Indianapolis. Sean Murphy Bunting, by the way, is 28 years old. So again, like, are we all like assuming like that contract was going to age well? I think we'll just come to grips with the fact that like Garrett Williams is a lockdown corner, and you've drafted 2 players in the top 50 that have similar profiles in terms of their upside. So I'm bullish on the group. You want to add depth and defensive talent on the defensive line and age and experience, do that because it ages better. But these corners, you got to have fresh young legs. So we'll see what happens. We know what happened under Steve Keim. We've teased this now. This Steve Keim all bust list, and Bo and I put this together, a breakdown of the horror show that was Steve Keim personnel. And so there were many options to choose from. Unlike, what we saw in 2023 when the Cardinals had no options for Monti Ossenfort, we have many options to choose from in terms of the all-bust team, both offense and defense. So if you see a player that's not on here, know that we likely had that conversation and for whatever reason didn't edge his way out. Like Sam Bradford's not on this list, but that was $20 million for what? 4 starts, and it was a laughing stock. So there are always honorable mentions, Damon Dawg.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, we're willing to hear those honorable mentions that you guys might have in the chat. Throw those names in the chat and let us know what ones we're missing here.
This was chat driven yesterday. The all Steve Keim first team. Let's start with the offense, which I do think is a little bit more forgiving, but it's still rough. Let's check it out. Let me take a look here. The all Steve Keim first team offense. Let's see if I can reference all these by name and their acquisition. All right. So left tackle, Josh Jones, a 4th rounder out of Houston, was actually probably more respectable than he was given credit for. He was traded to the Texans right when Ossenfort and company got here, but played some snaps on some teams that were semi-viable under Cliff Kingsbury. Dorian Johnson, a 4th rounder, never played a snap for the team, was cut after the draft. Mason Cole, a 3rd rounder. We mentioned him yesterday. Center out of Michigan, mega bust, underperformed. Jonathan Cooper, top 7 pick out of UNC. Good player through preseason training camp until getting hurt really on the last drive of the preseason. Was never the same player. Huge.
Who doesn't want to guard at 7? Who doesn't want to guard at 7?
He was part of what could be the worst draft class in modern history, the 2013 NFL draft. Horror show in and of itself. And then Andre Smith, right tackle free agent, the definition of a turnstile, former 1st-round pick of the Cincinnati Bengals. Remember, he had that rough look running the 40 time once upon a time. That is the who's who of big mega busts at offensive line for Steve Keim. Damon, any takeaways?
Yeah, no Billy Price, I think, is the biggest takeaway. We have it here, K2 in the chat saying no Billy Price. Feels like a big miss to miss out on our guy here on this list.
That's true. We had a lot to pick from on interior offensive line. Like, you talk about, it's got to, irate Steve Keim that Ossenfort shows up, immediately gets yelled at Froholt, immediately locks down that position. Isaiah Adams is going to be a good pro. Evan Brown. And the Keims tried so much, whether it was Rodney Hudson or whomever, and just whiffed, could not get the interior going at all. Disaster class.
Keim also, I feel like he did it, or Monti did it in a way with Froholt where that Keim couldn't even conjure up in his head. Monti being like, oh, I found value here on this backup guard from the Browns that I really think could come in here and do a good job on offense. What a good value pickup we're about to make here. Steve Keim's like, who's the number 1 free agent center in football? Our center position was terrible last year. Oh, pay Rodney Hudson as much money as he wants. Get him in a Cardinal uniform. Like, Steve Keim's ability to critically think is is so shocking when you like look at lists like this. It's the most, every option was the most in your face option. And he was like, that one, that's the one.
So it's just like, what are the rankings? Who can we get? Well, I don't know if that's a scheme fit, Steve. Nah, it's fine. We'll just do that. Rodney Hudson was traded for 2 third-round picks, and used the Cardinals at the tail end of his career just to cash some checks. Good on him. Let's take a look at the rest of the offense here, which is headlined, by the way, by the biggest bust of the Keim era and one of the biggest Cardinal busts of all time. As we jump back into the offense, Josh Rosen, unequivocally the biggest bust of the Keim era, traded up from 15 to 10, 15, 10, 11. I can't remember. I think it was 10, out of UCLA. He's now officially the only quarterback in the 2018 draft class to not have a successful season. Darnold and Baker Mayfield got their acts together. And of course, Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen are 2 of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Rosen, unequivocally, the Cardinals got the one quarterback that you just unequivocally say cannot play. You are not an NFL player. And you bet your ass the night they drafted him, I stayed up till 3 a.m. watching his highlights on YouTube. Damon, we had it all figured out. We were finally back. The Cardinals got what I thought was John Elway 2.0. And he turned out to be not even practice squad, capable for many teams. I mean, he left the Cardinals. He didn't have any kind of rehabilitation of his play anywhere else. Like usually a guy catches on and you're like, oh yeah, he's back and he's feisty and he won us a couple games and he's a great back, like Colt McCoy. And no, Josh Rosen's just like, I'm out, I'm done, it's over, I'll never be good.
I mean, first off, I just got to say, as a closeted Dolphins fan, that trade that was pulled off by Steve Keim, but the one thing Steve Keim knew how to do was swindle a trade. And that trade he swindled the Miami Dolphins into is one of the biggest atrocities in the National Football League. I mean, we watched Josh Rosen throw for 82 passing yards a game over the course of an entire season. And then somehow you guys got a 2nd-round pick for him, which is that'll lead us into another name here on this list. But Josh Rosen is just, he's pretty much the biggest bust at quarterback that I can remember in a long time. And I find it interesting because I had a lot of strong takes about, and when I say strong, I meant that they were like, I know this is shocking to people, but I was very, ready to go to war for these takes on the quarterbacks in that draft class. I thought Lamar was going to be really good.
Yeah.
Check mark. I thought Baker Mayfield was going to be really good. Looked bad for a second, but I think he's an established, very good quarterback now. I thought Sam Darnold was going to be trash. I was laughing at the Jets, and I turned out to be right on that one. And then you get to the last 2 quarterbacks, and I've never been more wrong about 2 quarterbacks in my life, was rolling on the floor laughing at the Bills for taking 50% completion percentage at Wyoming, Josh Allen, no footwork, the worst accuracy of any first-round quarterback in modern history. I was like, great job, guys. You picked a guy who can't play. And then the Cardinals picked Josh Rosen, and I remember thinking, that's a good pick. That's a good pick. That's a good pick. That's going to be a good pick.
I mean, his arm strength wasn't a problem. He had a little bit of mobility. It was just a train wreck. Speaking of train wrecks, you foreshadowed this. The next year, Josh Rosen would be shipped to the Dolphins after the Cardinals wisely took Kyler Murray. And then they're like, I remember, I'll never forget Keim at Kyler's presser. It was like, maybe we'll just have 2 quarterbacks. It's just like, you think Kyler and Kevin Murray are going to let that fly, bro? They got on the clock. They tried to ship out Rosen after the Kyler pick in the 1st round. And of course, everybody was smart enough to say, no chance in hell, Steve Keim. Are we doing that? They then traded him. After the Dolphins had a 2nd-round pick, they traded down. I remember like, Dolphins are on the clock. That's our pick. They traded down. Okay. The pick they traded down for was pick 62. So it was the 3rd to last or 2nd to last pick in the 2nd round. And the Cardinals had 2 choices. They could take a player that was a physical specimen, played at Ole Miss. His running mate, A.J. Brown, had already been drafted, and the Cardinals needed a top receiver after they had just, kind of gutted the position. Larry was a little bit older. Or they could take the leading receiver in college football, but was slightly undersized, and by slightly, I mean heavily, and played for UMass. What did the Cardinals end up doing? Noah, let's see that offense one more time. They chose Andy Isabella. Andy Isabella was taken 2 spots ahead by Steve Keim of DK Metcalf, We know the kind of player Metcalf has been for the division rival Seahawks. Here's what Andy Isabella gave you. His first season with the Arizona Cardinals, he came in and looked okay, solid, and then the next season had 4 receptions for 47 yards in a loss against Detroit and never seemingly picked back up. His last year at UMass, the year that got him drafted, he had 1,700 yards and 13 touchdowns. But again, I remember when they put the UMass highlights on the screen during the draft, they were grainy. It was tough to see. I'll tell you who got Andy Isabella drafted by Steve Keim. David Johnson and John Brown. He drafted those 2 players in the 3rd round, and he said, I'm going to outthink the room. I'm going to outsmart everybody. I'm going to do it again. Well, he did it. And the year before, I believe, or 2 years before, he tried it with a converted defensive back in Chad Williams for the Arizona Cardinals. Was not a good pick. In fact, was so bad, never even played for the Arizona Cardinals, was, I think, a DB out of Grambling State. He was a 3rd rounder in 2017. You see all these cycles with Keim. It was like, we hit on John Brown, we hit on David Johnson. We're going to go and reinvent the wheel with Chad Williams and Andy Isabella. They're not only busts, they are all-time mega busts, Damon.
Yeah, that Andy Isabella pick will live in infamy until the end of time.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny when you were talking about the way Andy Isabella was built. I was envisioning you on a football field, in the NFL.
Yes,
and it's just
that's appropriate.
It's so funny too, just because you look at the other guy who they could have picked, and he's the biggest physical specimen monster from just a look standpoint, probably in the entire league. So it just makes it that much more comedic. But yeah, classic Steve Keim trying to show everybody how smart he is, and it blowing up in his face.
I'll never forget. We all cope during the draft process. And the Bears, our friends at CHGO, have to do that with Colston Loveland. I'll never forget, like, I found there's a video of like Andy Isabella, either when he was at UMass and he like went back to his childhood bedroom, and like he had like a fat head of like Adam Thielen on the wall. And I'm like, we got an Adam Thielen. Let's go. And then I was like, nope, never mind. Not even comparable. That's just a straight up miss.
Andy just had a Wes Welker on the wall and Adam Thielen and Danny Amendola, and he's no theme here. That's just my favorite guys.
So bad. The last moniker on this offense is one Hakeem Butler, who, by the way, I will call a spade a spade. I wanted this pick. I remember the start of day 4, the Cardinals had the first pick. Nobody could believe that Hakeem Butler had fallen that far. And I was so fired up when they took him. He was a standout at Iowa State. Cliff had played against him, had recruited him at Texas Tech. Here's the ironic thing. He's still going strong in the USFL, making plays for the St. Louis Battlehawks. Out there looking like, out there looking like Megatron. Every now and then in the offseason, I see a fade catch for a touchdown for Hakeem Butler. He was just meant to play in the USFL. So
he legitimately might be the best USFL player of all time. He's up there.
I think he's the best player. I think it's like understood, like he's the best player in that league.
Yeah.
He's 29 now. He was 6'5", 220, physical freak. And it was like, what could go wrong? And then I got hurt, but there was talk like even before he got hurt in training camp, he was so bad, they almost had to cut him. I mean, it's just this list, chef's kiss. I know we've got some honorable mentions here. Evan Bames on this list, or honorable mention. He was an atrocious mid-round interior offensive lineman. Running back's a little tougher. I think Rashad Mendenhall was fine. And Keim was wise enough. They really didn't use a ton of resources. We're going to get to the offense here in a little bit.
Which is shocking.
Yeah, it is.
Like, because he loves interior offensive linemen and off-ball linebackers. So you'd think that running back would be like next up on that list of positions that you absolutely should not invest resources into, but that Steve Keim is just like, need another guard in the first round.
Yeah. I mean, the Adrian Peterson, Troy Nicholas of it all. I mean, we could spend all day talking about this. Nicholas was a huge miss, second round pick. He was everything Trey McBride isn't or is, or whatever you want to phrase it. He was a atrocious prospect out of Notre Dame. And then AP, like the running back group was fine. Like they traded for Adrian Peterson. I was for the trade. They didn't have anybody. David Johnson had gone down. So I'll give him some grace on that. It's really the wide receivers, the quarterback, and the offensive line. F's all around. What about the defense? We all know what position he was infatuated with. How many off-ball linebackers will make our all-first team, all-time defensive bust list? That's coming up on PHNX Cardinals. But first, now is the time. Get locked in. The NBA playoffs are in full effect. Are the Knicks Damon, you think the Knicks will rally tonight?
Yeah, I think the Knicks win this one at home, just because they kind of have to.
Yeah.
But I'll certainly be wearing my Pacers yellow.
That's too funny. I'll tell you what's not funny is how about an early payout offer? That's serious because with our friends at Bet365, the early payout offer is coming your way if your team goes up by 20. And we have seen big leads blown. So even if the Knicks have a 20-point lead and they blow it, you're going to be taken care of with our friends at Bet365. Never ordinary. Use the bonus code PHNX. Again, PHNX365 when you sign up. Deposit $10. Place a bet $5. Get 150 in bonus bets if your bet wins or loses. Again, they can be placed on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment. It's never ordinary with Bet365. You got to be 21 years and older, physically located in the great state of Arizona. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. Text NEXT STEP to 53342 or visit problemgambling.az.gov for more information. You can also wager tonight. Little diamond action. D-backs against maybe my St. Louis Cardinals. My D-backs versus my Cardinals. That'll be a hell of a matchup tonight, Damon.
Certainly will be, Johnny. And of course, if you want to bet on all the best player props on that one, head on over to Bet365. The absolute best place to gamble. So many markets and the best place to live bet too.
Yeah, absolutely. How about the best place to cool down on a hot summer day here in Arizona? It's with our friends at Circle K. By joining the Inner Circle for free, you're going to get hooked up right now. Thirst has met its match. How about a 79-cent Polar Pop or Froster on the house with Circle K? So easy to download. All you got to do, enter your email, phone number. You're fully enrolled. After that, all you need is your phone number to get the deals. Save 25 cents per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups. Save 3 cents per gallon every single day. They've got so many member-exclusive deals, discounts, whatever it is your fancy, you're going to find it with our friends at Circle K. Join the Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for more details. We're going to jump into your super chats in just a minute. But before we do, let's take a look. It's the all Steve Keim first team defense bust list. And this is the who's who. This is the group right now that has given us so much angst. None of these guys at the end of the day had any right to be drafted where they were, to be signed to the contracts they were. Let's start with the defensive line. We touched on yesterday's show. Keim, one of his parting gifts was Trey McBride, but in the next round of that 2022 draft, Cam Thomas, Myjai Sanders, he used 2 third-rounders. Neither of them made it into year 1 for Jonathan Gannon. Both were unceremoniously cut. Myjai Sanders is out of the league. Cincinnati. Cameron Thomas bounced around with Kansas City, was traded for, I think, a rotational 7th. And then, of course, the coup de grace, the chef's kiss, 2 of the biggest bust disappointments in the history of this franchise. Let's start with Jordan Phillips, who got a mega deal leaving Buffalo, came here, was out of shape, didn't love football, and the Cardinals couldn't get rid of him fast enough, consistently got hurt, was on injured reserve. And then, of course, Robert Nkemdiche in 2026, the 27th overall pick, taken ahead of future Hall of Famer Chris Jones. Robert Nkemdiche, speaking of not loving football, that's a common theme that you're going to see on this list. What do you think of this defensive line, Damon, Dawg? Get your barf bag ready for it.
Yeah, Myjai Sanders was pretty much the first transaction that happened once I joined this fine program. On that fateful summer 2 years ago, Johnny, and immediately they were like, get this guy off this team as fast as possible.
Yeah.
Cam Thomas, not a good football player. No. I think, but obviously the belle of the ball here is Robert Nkemdiche. Throwing parties at his house, leaving trash on his floor and not playing football at all.
Falling out of his window at Ole Miss, his dorm. He had a pet panther his parents got for him. Sure. I hope Big Rob's doing well. Not a good football player. Then we go to what was the most polarizing position unit under Steve Keim. all the resources used on this unit, the Cardinals wisely have strayed away from it with Monti Ossenfort. It's the off-ball linebacker group. There were so many. We had a tough time choosing, so we included them all. Kevin Minter, second-round pick for LSU, is probably like the most consistent. He finished his rookie deal, was not a good player, did start on the 2015 team that went to the NFC Championship, ended up being a backup special teamer on Bruce Arians' Buccaneers teams. No way warranted a top 50 selection. Hassan Reddick, he lucked into Hassan Reddick 13th overall after not trading up for Mahomes or Deshaun Watson. Instead, gets the best pass rusher in the draft, moves him to off-ball linebacker. His last year with the Arizona Cardinals, he has double-digit sacks, abruptly leaves, and was an ass kicker for Carolina and, of course, Philadelphia in the process. And one of the biggest busts in franchise history. I won't say I saw it coming, but toot. Isaiah Simmons, a top 10 pick, jack of all trades, master of none, horror show, couldn't cover, was supposed to be able to be a tight end, a racer, got burned by every tight end under the sun, no physicality to his game, all flash, no substance, and stiffed this show twice when he was supposed to come on. How about that? So that is the group, the off-ball linebacker group. You can mix in Deone Bucannon at safety. Again, Deone Bucannon was a nice player during his rookie contract, got his fifth-year option picked up, not a starter long-term, ended up on those Bruce Arians Buccaneer teams. But the Cardinals used a first-round pick on him, and he didn't get a second contract, so that's why he's on this list. Marquise Christian, Brandon Williams, mid to late round picks, defensive backs. Brandon Williams in particular, atrocious in the third round. Marquise Christian was early day three pick that just never panned out. And then, of course, Marco Wilson, who threw a shoe at Florida, a fourth round pick that was abruptly sent packing by Gannon and Ossenfort. There is the defense, Damon, Dawg, the all Steve Keim first team defense.
The linebackers are really just the most special, I think, position group out of all of these on here, especially when you consider that we had to move Deone Bucannon to a different position to get him on the list, especially when you consider Zaven Collins doesn't make an appearance despite being I think he's a good player. I think he's a good rotational player, but obviously he is nowhere near the player that you would want a first round pick to be, because he's kind of a high floor, low ceiling edge rusher. And it's like, that's the guy you take in the third, fourth round, not first round out of Tulsa and expect him to be, the next Roquan Smith or whatever. But the linebackers are just, it's so funny how much this guy loved that position. No one's ever loved the position more than Steve Keim with linebackers.
Well, and it's like, then you saw him during this draft season, like hanging out. I think they repped him with Jihad Campbell. He was like out to dinner with Jihad Campbell. I'm just like, the jokes write themselves. Like, this is what the Cardinals are not taking Jihad Campbell. Jihad Campbell, who's still not healthy, by the way, hanging with Steve Keim. And people are like, that'll be the pick at 16. I'm like, are you out of your freaking mind? That will never be the pick. This is what the Cardinals do so well under Ossenfort. They prioritize premium positions. And listen, that doesn't mean they're always going to work out. Like B.J. Ojulari right now as a second rounder is a miss thus far because of injury, right? Hopefully Darius Robinson gets it together after last year. But like, those are the right moves. The ceiling for off-ball linebackers, even when you take them that high, when you take a player like that, they have to become Patrick Willis or Luke Kuechly, or they're a bust. And what kind of expectations is that to lay on a 20, 22-year-old kid? It's like, you are better off doing what the Niners have done. It's like Fred Warner in the third round, and then some of these the mid to late rounders. They got Navarro Bowman later. Like, that's what good teams do. Cody Simon, that's why he projects to start. It's like, was a multi-year starter at Ohio State, led the team to a national championship, fourth rounder. We're going to groom you into a starter. Not, hey, Cody Simon, we're going to pick you at 16th overall. It's like, well, no, nobody would do that with a brain.
I mean, yeah, you look at, you name some of those like more like Hall of Fame type linebackers, and yeah, if you can hit on a guy like that, it's a great pick and everybody loves it, right? But when you could draft a Cody Simon in the fourth round and they give you 95% of the production of, guy that you drafted in the first round, it just makes way more sense to take the guy in the day three pick, right? But yeah, I mean, looking at this list, I mean, just brutal.
It's atrocious. It's atrocious. It's not just the players; it's where they were picked.
Yeah,
like Deone Bucannon was productive Not for the 27th pick. Kevin Minter, top 50. Hassan Reddick, grossly misplaced in a star-studded 2017 draft. Isaiah Simmons, drafted over Tristan Wirfs, drafted over CeeDee Lamb. Whoops. Zaven Collins. I mean, it's just like, you have to almost try to be this bad. And just like lighting picks on fire. So I know that people are like, well, Ossenfort, we haven't drafted a Pro Bowler yet. I just think, guys, just watch the game with your eyes. Like Garrett Williams, these guys can play. It will come. We knew the minute a lot of those guys got here, it's like, this ain't going to work. These guys look stiff. They look out of place. Your super chats as we go into OT here on a Football Friday. We want to welcome all of our friends. Yeah, there it is. Watching with our many streaming partners. We appreciate the support. Drop us a like here on a Football Friday. Damon and filling in for our guy Bo Brock. Let's kick things off with 2 Slim Shady Canada dollars currency, $2.79. Damon, you can't be looking shorter than JV Tough. I think he can. I think he just proved to you he can.
What the hell? What happened? Johnny, how's the weather up there?
I'm a big man now. I'm a big man. I will tell you unequivocally, because I've spent a fair amount of time with Damon, Dawg. He is taller than me by about 2 inches. Are you a solid 5'9"?
Yeah, I'm a little over 5'9", probably just under 5'10".
So like I'm 5'7" on a good day. I tell my wife I'm 5'7". She's like, you're not 5'7". So we're just calling a spade here.
I'm 6'11".
Yeah, Noah's really freakishly tall.
Yeah, the viewers never have actually seen Noah not behind the computer. So when he's out, hanging with us throughout the course of this year, it's going to be out at events and stuff. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, Noah's a absolutely tall freak, and usually what we do around here is we throw like pies in his face and stuff because we make fun of him for being so tall.
We got to have one tall guy always, like Shane D, freakishly tall. Jacob, once upon a time,
Shane is like, he's not freakishly tall. He's freakishly he's just a big guy. Like,
yeah,
we were at the NFL Combine, and he's going and talking to Jalen Conyers, formerly of ASU, and who did a podcast at this company.
Yeah.
And this is an NFL tight end. Jalen Conyers is on the Dolphins right now, might make the team. Shane looks every bit the exact same size standing right next to him. And you're just like, this is an NFL tight end. These are like the biggest guys on the football field from a physicality standpoint. It's wild.
I don't know how to like describe the Dief's bit. Like Shane Diefenbach, Shane Diefenbach has like a shtick, a bit to him, like who he is. It only works with how big he is. If he tried to be his authentic self and he was my height, I don't think it would work.
Oh, people would hate him. John, you know how it is.
He would be universally disliked. It would
100%.
All the actions would kind of seem a little. He's very lovable, but the actions would seem kind of effed up if he were my size.
Yeah, I was going the same place as you. The Seth Rogen interview in Step Brothers. Now all of a sudden the whole Shane Diefenbach stick is starting to feel a little bit effed up.
Here comes Diefenbach. Get him out of here. All 5-6 of them. Diego Perez, $5. Wanted to clear a rumor. Was that JV in the big red costume taking a pic with Ruby Rose? Hashtag Mochagate. Hashtag hold the line. Big Red was holding the line. Am I right? He was hanging out with Ruby Rose, having a banner time. That was not me, but I support Big Red. Damon, you might feel differently, however, given your relationship with Ruby Rose.
So yeah, certainly me and Big Red are going through a little bit of a tough time right now. Not exactly on my best friends list. And I thought that he had my back a little bit better than that. And then I see him taking flicks with my girl. But I'll tell you what, if that was Johnny in the Big Red costume, I think me and him wouldn't be doing this podcast right now. I would have quit.
So true. So true. Ruby, she's a gem. She's a sweetheart. But I don't forgive her for what she's done to Damon.
Sweet girl.
Yep, very much so. Reezy Baby, $2. Is Honey Badger the only kind pick to play past 30? Great question. DJ Humphries supposedly was like gonna sign with the 49ers. I mean, Humphries was on a roster last year, was with the Chiefs. He's 31 now. So Humphries made it post 30. Honey Badger obviously is post 30. I mean, none of the skill players, I don't think, are still kicking. Certainly none of the offensive linemen. Defensive line, he didn't draft Calais Campbell. So I would say DJ Humphries and Honey Badger are the two.
Yeah. Though that's obviously, I mean, not a long list, but Honey Badger is one of those players that you'll look back and everyone will remember Tyrann Mathieu and the staple he left on the league. He's played on a lot of really good football teams as well, and that's one of the ones. That's one of the picks where you have to give credit to Steve Keim, where like he did kind of outsmart the room a little bit. Where and granted, I'll give a little bit more credit probably to Patrick Peterson and in vetting him and giving his stamp of approval, but. The fact that Tyrann Mathieu was dropping as far as he did and the Cardinals picked him up is one of the best moves that the organization probably has ever made from a personnel standpoint.
Was Tyrann like a little immature? Yeah, but like so are a ton of college players. Think about like what Tyrann got in trouble for. It's like
smoking weed, right?
Yeah, and it's just like now it's just like he would just go in the first round. Like it wouldn't be a big
Sponsored
deal.
by Pure Edibles.
Right.
Welcome into the PHNX Cardinals show.
It's crazy. There's like this guy doesn't care. He's aloof. We hate him. Look at him getting arrested for possession. It's just like none of that would be relevant now. Of course, he was a great player. Who's taller, Johnny or Totri? I think I'm taller than Totri. I think Totri is like a smidge shorter than me. I could be wrong though.
I think it's extremely close. It's a good question. Totri will tell you though that he's like 5'8". So
he is. And here's what he has on me is like I'm 37. How old's Totri? 25? 26?
He's like 28, 27.
Okay. Like I'm going to shrink as I grow. Like my grandfathers were small men, and then they got my grandfather who passed away this past year was like 5'4" when he died. So I'm going to lose what little height I have here in the next 20 years. So I wouldn't be surprised if that already started and Totri gets me by like a centimeter. Josh, $10. It's so nice to see a competent GM. No more small school players and washed out vets. I had Stockholm syndrome with Steve Keim, always trying to talk myself into picks. Now I don't have to. This was the draft, Josh. You're 100% right. Where we put a bow on this draft class. I remember Damon was in a wedding. Bo and I were sitting there with Noah, and I was just like, I like all these picks. There's none of these picks I have an issue with. I get everything they did. I love the first two picks. Jordan Birch was good value. I love the Cody Simon and Denzel Burke pick. Usually it's like, even with Ossenfort 2 years ago, it's like, I didn't like the third round, right? Mm-hmm. And hopefully I'm proven wrong. This year it was like, it's the most universally beloved draft class in my adult life for the Cardinals.
Yeah, I don't want to, I hate making this comparison, but it really does just remind me of it. So I'm going to say it. It reminds me of like how the Eagles draft, where it's just big school after big school. Yeah. And, they're hitting on fifth rounders because it's a guy that was projected to be a second rounder, but he slipped because of injury. And now they get Nakobe Dean in the fifth round and he's a starter. That's similar to Will Johnson this year. Like it felt very reminiscent of a Howie Roseman draft. And, as much as we don't like the Eagles on this show, Howie Roseman is, as of right now, number one on the GM power rankings in the NFL because he's created a monster of a team and he drafts so well year in and year out. And yeah, this felt like to me, it was taking into that mold of like, we're just going to get the best players on the board from all the top college football programs. We are Ohio State, and it's probably going to lead to this team getting a lot better at football.
Reezy Baby, $2. DJ Humphries, Buda Baker, Junkyard Dog, Marcus Golden, K1, and that's it. I would say if we go back a little bit further, like Honey Badger, David Johnson, but like, the 2.0 Keim with Cliff and Steve Wilkes, like, that's the group. I mean, their draft classes is historically bad, Even Dan Snyder. This was always what I would go back to. Dan Snyder would like make the picks for the Commanders, for the Washington football team. And he would just like take defensive linemen from Alabama and he didn't know what he was doing, but like he hit on some of those guys. Remember all those defensive line? They just kept taking like SEC, the guys he would watch play in like the national championship. Keim wouldn't even do that. It was like, not only am I not going to take the good players, I'm not even going to take the players that I'm going to take guys that you have never heard of. And I'm going to play them at positions that don't matter. And I'm going to find a way to keep my job for 10 years. It is virtually impossible to do what he did. And that's why I always push back to him. It's like Michael Bidwell, doesn't have any patience and they do this, they do that. Michael Bidwell employed Steve Keim for 10 years. If you're Monti Ossenfort, the bar is so low to clear. I'm like, honestly, I think both Ossenfort and Gannon, assuming they have winning records this year, are getting well-deserved extensions. Like, it wouldn't have surprised me had they got extensions after last year because the bar was so low, especially for Ossenfort because how awful Keim was at drafting.
Yeah. Apparently we forgot Tony Jefferson, I think, on that Steve Keim list.
Well, no, I mean, he was great undrafted player. He was undrafted in 2013. Gotcha. But I mean, like, the Cardinals, anytime Bruce Arians was not involved, it did not end well. It just didn't. It was, Damon says 4-3 though. Boo that, man. He's got time before the season starts to revamp he's going to watch them in training camp and in the preseason. And I think we'll give him one amendment to see what the final record is. I think that's fair. Brian giving Damon a shout out, $5. Damon, you owe me an autograph. You said you were going to be at the draft party. I got DM receipts. Can't wait for preseason to watch our depth play. Wow. Brian calling you out, Damon.
Well, Brian, I will tell you, if it makes you feel better, I didn't lie to you, because at the time when I DM'd you about the draft party, I did in fact believe that I was going to be at the draft party. Unfortunately, I had a wedding that I had planned out like 10 months in advance, and I took the time off just thinking to myself, hey, it's in April. That's not football season. I'll be totally off. And then it took about, until a month before the draft for me to be like, oh my God, the 1 week I took off the entire year is on the draft week. So I apologize for that, Brian. We'll make it up to you sometime. I'll see you. I'm sure I'll see you out at a Gila River event or something.
Absolutely. We give Damon a pass. He works his butt off doing double duty, and we appreciate it. Pull double duty today on your #1 Arizona Cardinal podcast. Bo will be back next week. In the meantime, drop us a like, leave us a 5-star wherever you get your programming. And of course, subscribe to PHNX Sports here on YouTube. Who was the biggest bust of the Keim era? Did we miss anybody? Leave us a comment down below. Keep us honest here as we trudge ahead. I dropped an article, gophnx.com. It is free for diehards and anybody who wants to read it on why the Cardinals are poised to win big under Jonathan Gannon. But consider becoming a diehard today. We would surely appreciate it. Damon, no, I appreciate you, bros, stepping up and stepping in. I'm Johnny Venerable. Have a great holiday weekend. We're back on Tuesday. Take care, everybody.
We all silly like the mayor.